So yes, the cooking videos are officially back. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make my pescatarian gumbo with no meat, only seafood, and a little bit of imitation meat. The imitation meat is optional. It won't be everybody's choice, but you can go ahead and get started. This is what the pot looks like at the very end. I had to show the end before I even showed the beginning so you guys know exactly what you're getting into. All of the ingredients and the sizes or measurements are listed down below. Now let's get started. Oh, I'm so ready to eat again. So today we're going to be making a pescatarian gumbo, perfect for the new year, which is right around the corner. I do have a recipe on how I make the original regular gumbo. And since then I've made it at least 3 dozen times in this year. So we're going to start off with our ingredients. Also, feel free to add whatever seafood you like. Gumbo is all about the seafood for me. So we're going to be having shrimp and crab in ours. But if you want to add crawfish, if you want to add a piece of whitefish, whatever you like, go ahead and add it to yours. Now let's get started. So I've got the fire going in a pretty large pan. I'm going to use this to go ahead and brown my meat. That meatless sausage that I have, I like to have it browned beforehand. I'm going to be making this on a random Tuesday night, so I prefer to pre-cook my meat and my vegetables. And this is going to help to cut down the process or the time for the gumbo itself. So I'm just going to take a regular organic extra virgin olive oil, let that heat up in my pan. As soon as this gets hot, we're going to go ahead and drop our sausage. We're going to also get the fire going on our nice cast iron pan. This one is pre-seasoned and ready to go. I'm going to be making my roux in a cast iron pan. It's always recommended to use cast iron for your roux, but if you have a regular pan, trust me, I've done it plenty of times with a regular pan and it comes out just fine. This is just a recommendation. Now I'm going to take about 2 cups of vegetable oil and pour it into the pan. You want to do equal parts vegetable oil to your equal parts flour. So now that we've added our 2 cups of vegetable oil, we're going to let this get super hot. Once it's hot, we're going to go ahead and slowly but surely whisk in 2 cups of our flour. And you want to whisk it in really slowly, and you want to just whisk it until it gets brown. Now this pan is pretty hot, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the sausage. Now I'm just going to let that get a little bit brown and firm, and we're going to take it off the heat. Now because this is not real meat, it cooks pretty fast, so make sure you watch it. I cooked for about 5 minutes, and now as you can see, it's nice and brown. So we're going to remove it from the heat, add a little bit more of our extra virgin olive oil, and then add our vegetables. So now we've set the sausage aside, and it's kind of left a little bit of a residue in there, especially because I did not use a non-stick pan, which is okay because it's just going to go ahead and flavor our vegetables. So I added a little bit more oil, and I'm going to let that get hot again. So now I'm going to go ahead and add I don't know if you can see that, but the oil is nice and hot and ready for the flour so that we can start our roux. Now how you know if your oil is really hot is you just take and just put a little in there, and if it sizzles, it's ready. So we're going to just whisk in little by little. Take your time with this. Just keep stirring it because you want to make sure you eliminate all of the clumps. Now this right here is a cup, but remember we're going to do 2 cups of flour because we have 2 cups of oil, and we just want to add it in little by little. So now that we've added a whole cup of flour, we're going to quickly refill this and add our 2nd cup of flour. Now we've got our 2nd cup of flour locked and loaded. Just go ahead and combine a little bit more. And you want to continue to whisk this almost non-stop and keep it moving until it becomes a nice chocolate brown. Sometimes I'll stop at peanut butter, but the preference is yours. Also, we still have these vegetables going. I went ahead and ground up some parsley in here. Use fresh parsley if you have it on hand. I didn't have any on hand, so I just worked with what I have. I'm going to go ahead and add that garlic to this mixture. I just want to work with this until it gets a little bit soft and translucent. This is going to help the process of making the gumbo go a little bit faster, because you don't want really crunchy vegetables in your gumbo. So if you put the vegetables into your gumbo while they are still fresh and raw, you're going to find that you're going to have to cook the gumbo a lot longer until they are softened. So this is just going to cut the process down. I'm going to saute these for probably about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to combine them with the sausage, and we're going to put everything into the pot. Now I've added that minced garlic. Go ahead and combine that evenly. This looks and smells so good. We're going to let this go ahead and continue to saute until the vegetables are just a little bit softer, and then we will be back with our cooked roux ready to hit the pot. Now it's been about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and I've come to the end of the road with my roux. Most people will go much darker than this to a nice chocolate color. My husband likes it at a peanut butter color. I made it once at chocolate, and he was like, no, go back to peanut butter. The stove is off, but I'm still moving it because I don't want anything to settle. I had a medium-sized, nice-sized pot here, but I realized I have about 2.5 pounds of crab leg that's going to go into this recipe. So I pulled out one of my larger pots. We're going to go ahead and transfer the roux to the pot, and we're going to go ahead and add the vegetables and season that, add our broth and our sausage, and then we're going to let that cook for a bit before we add our seafood. So now we've added our roux to our large pot, and we've cut the fire on. It's still warm, but it's probably not as hot. We're going to go ahead and put in our vegetables. Okay, it got a little hot in here, but pretty much you want to just combine your vegetables and your roux and make sure it's cooked and combined properly. This is a great time to go ahead and add all of your seasonings. You want to add everything except for your gumbo fillet. You want to add the gumbo fillet at the very, very, very end. So I'm going to start off by adding a little bit of tawny satiric seasoning, a favorite. I like a little bit of Italian seasoning in mine. And then instead of using traditional pepper, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon pepper. And then, just based off of the way I was raised, you can't make anything without garlic salt. I pretty much was raised on Larry's garlic salt, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. Good. So now that we've added our seasoning, so keep in mind it may look like I've added a lot of seasoning, but this pot is going to be to the top pretty much full with vegetables and meats and seafood and vegetable stock and all that greatness. So that bit of seasoning is going to stretch out really far. I'm going to go ahead and add in my sausage and stir that up really well. And everything is looking good, so I'm going to go ahead and add my vegetable stock. So I keep saying vegetable stock, but I meant to say vegetable broth. You can use stock or broth, it's your choice. This is the one I usually always pick up from the store. The recommended amount is probably about 3 of these, but I go ahead and add an extra and use 4 just because I put extra vegetables and my husband and I like it really soupy. So I'm gonna add 4 of these. If you are a meat eater, chicken broth tastes even better in this. Also, if you do want to add chicken to yours, this would be a great time to add the chicken right after you add the broth. And this is what it's looking like with 2. And of course it has to heat up, and as the broth heats up, the roux will loosen up, and you kind of just want to keep that moving so everything can combine really nice. So I went ahead and added a little bit of cayenne pepper for an extra kick. Keep in mind I did add jalapeno, so if you don't want to do both, or if you don't want it too spicy, choose between the 2, or you don't have to add either. I've also added all 4 of those vegetable broths, and it's looking really nice. Keep in mind that I only put imitation meat in here. If I would have put sausage in here, you would be seeing sausage left and right. I also would have chicken in here at this point, and so it would be a lot more going on. So we're gonna let all this marry together, and we're gonna add in our crab meat, we're gonna add in our shrimp, and then we're gonna add in our crab legs. So my gumbo has been cooking for about 50 minutes so far, and I've checked on it about every 20 minutes or so. Just came back and stirred it and checked on it. You can reduce the heat a little bit more at this point. Everything is looking good. I went ahead and tasted it to make sure that everything is tasting great and it's perfect. This is the perfect time before you add your seafood to go ahead and add more seasoning if needed. So go ahead and taste it and adjust your seasonings again as needed. Don't add your gumbo fillet yet until the very end. Also, something I forgot to mention is you want to cook this uncovered. You can let it simmer as long as you want, especially if you don't saute your vegetables or if you don't pre-cook your meat. It's a great idea to just let it simmer on the stove like all day, 3-4 hours. Cooking your vegetables and your meats before you combine everything together is just a great way to go ahead and speed up the process so that you can have your gumbo ready to serve within an hour and a half to 2 hours. So while my gumbo was cooking, I went ahead and I peeled the shrimp. These are 21-25 count, about 3 pounds, and I went ahead and peeled it, cleaned it, and then I went ahead and added my seasonings. All I added this time around was my Chesapeake Bay. This is pretty much the same as Old Bay seasoning, and then a little bit of white pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to the gumbo. I'm going to do it off camera so it doesn't splash me. So we've added the shrimp, and you want to go ahead and stir that in. Now it's looking much more meaty. You want to add more of that sausage that we added, feel free to do that. But my consistency is perfect, so I'm going to go ahead and let these shrimp cook in here. You can let them cook for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. I picked these up from my local Ralph's. They are about $12 a jar, and I did purchase 3 jars. This step is optional. I just feel like because I don't have the meat like I normally would, I just want to have a little bit of extra seafood in there so that it's not so that it's nice and chunky and full and filling. If you don't want to add the crab meat, and this is what the brand and all of that looks like. If you don't want to add the crab meat like this, a more affordable option would be to take a white fish, maybe like a tilapia or a codfish or whatever white fish you like, and cut it up into pieces, kind of chunk pieces. Back when we sauteed our sausage, you could have added that in then, and that way you can kind of add a little bit more of a meaty texture to your gumbo. And I'm just going to season it up. I don't want to put this in here whole, so I just want to add a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to add Old Bay, a little white pepper, and I'm just going to take a spoon and mix that up so I'm not dropping these huge big blocks of crab meat into my gumbo. And this is pretty much what it's going to look like after you go ahead and like mix it together and kind of break it apart so that you're not putting a huge block of crab meat in there. And we're going to go ahead and add this to our pot of gumbo. Okay, and there goes the crab right there. I'm just going to go ahead and combine it all together. You can see just by adding the shrimp and the crab how well my gumbo has thickened up, and it looks beautiful. It tastes so good. So So I'm not going to taste it again until that crab meat and that shrimp is cooked fully. And this looks perfect, so good, and it's thick, and there's no actual land animal meat in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook for about 5 minutes so that everything can cook and marry together. Then I'm gonna taste it, and then I'm gonna add my gumbo fillet before we add our crab legs. So before I go ahead and drop in the crab, I'm gonna go ahead and add about 2 tablespoons of my gumbo fillet, and I'm gonna use a whisk to make sure that it gets evenly combined. So I went ahead and put about 6 to 8 clusters in here, along with the remainder that were like single like this. Hubby does like me to put them in there whole, so that's exactly what I did. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cook for about 20 to 30 minutes so these crab legs can get nice and juicy and fully cooked. And then I still have a little bit more left, but if I put those in there, like, it's already overflowing. So we're gonna have dinner, and then after we have dinner, I'm gonna add the rest in there for later and for tomorrow. So we'll be back with my plating, and you guys can see the final results of my bomb. Super good, perfect for New Year's and all your favorite holiday meals. So Gumbo loves to eat his gumbo just served, just straight gumbo, but my son and I love white rice. Like, this is our favorite meal ever. So I'm a rice maker girl, but just to show you guys, we use the Mahatma Jasmine rice. This is my favorite rice. Make you some rice. When all the meat is gone, you can just put a little bit of that gumbo juice on the rice, and it is so good. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the rice. I'm gonna hit rice. And what's great about the rice maker, it's gonna go ahead and make the rice, and I don't have to worry about burning it or overcooking it, or undercooking it for that matter. And I can go ahead and breastfeed my daughter, give my son a bath, and by the time this is done, that means the gumbo is done and it's time to eat. So finally the gumbo is ready, and this is my bowl. Hubby's already eating, so I'm just gonna add a scoop of white rice, just like that. So this is how you make gumbo pescatarian style in 2 hours or less. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Happy eating.